Hello everyone, and welcome back to another cartography lecture video. And in this lecture video, we're going to talk about the last measure of dispersion, which is interquartile range. And so interquartile range is going to play off of that idea of the median that we talked about with measures of central tendency. So if you don't understand the concept of a median, we're going to review it here, and we're going to apply it to a measure of dispersion called interquartile range. So in the previous video, we talked about deviation from the mean, variance, and standard deviation, which all had to do with the central tendency measure mean and how far away, either on average with deviation from the mean or the slightly more complicated calculation for variance and standard deviation, the values were distributed from the mean. Interquartile range is a slightly different measure that involves how the data is distributed with respect to quartiles, hence interquartile range. And we're actually going to be talking about this in the same context as the median. So what I want to do is I want to give ourselves plenty of room here, and I want to talk conceptually for a second about what interquartile range is. Right, interquartile range. And I think the first thing we need to do is focus in on this word quartile, right? Quartile and interquartile range. What is a quartile? Well, quartiles are a set of values that divide the data into 4 equal pieces. Right? Core meaning 4. So 4 equal pieces. Right? And we've already seen this with the median, right? Because the median was the value that divided the data into 2 equal pieces. And that's why we said, right, 50% above and 50% below. Well, as it just so happens, right, the median is one of these values, right, that divides the data into 4 equal pieces, because the median divides it in half, and then the other 2 values divide it into quarters. So what we can do here is we can just draw, imagine this number line is our data set. We have our minimum on this end, and we have our maximum on this end. Right, we've already figured out that we have a value called the median. Right, the median, we've already determined, divides the data set into 50% on one side and 50% on the other side. Right, we've already determined this. Now what we're going to talk with interquartile range are 2 additional values called the first quartile, which you'll see sometimes referred to as Q1, and the third quartile called Q3. You'll sometimes see the median referred to as Q2. So median and Q2 are the same thing. Right, so this is going to be 25% from the minimum to the first quartile. This is 25% of the data. Right, from Q1 to the median, right, this is an additional 25%. The median to Q3, right, this is another 25%. And then from Q3 to the max is the last 25%. Right, so this pictorially represents what I said here, right? We're looking for these 3 values, Q1, Q2, and Q3, that divide the data into 4 equal pieces, right? 25%, 25%, 25%, and 25%, right? And so we already know how to find the median, right? The median was just the total number of observations, right? That's n. We always say the total number of observations is n, right? Plus 1 divided by 2, right? That's how we got median. For the Q1, right, we can apply this exact same formula, but instead of having it be n equal to the total number of observations, it's going to be just the first half, right? So Q1 is going to be from n1 to n median over 2 plus 1 over 2, right? And Q3 is going to be the same thing starting from the median. So it's going to be the n of the median, that's the number of observations for the median, right, to n for the end of the data set plus 1 over 2. So we're going to basically be finding the median with the way we've done it before, and then we're going to apply that exact same formula to the first half and that exact same formula to the second half. So let's go ahead and take a look at how that works with an actual data set. So let's go ahead and pull up our Excel sheet here. Let's copy this one last time. We're going to give ourselves a little bit of room here. So person and height. So if you remember, the first thing that we had to do was order the data set. So we have to order the data set. So I'm going to just quickly off screen, I'm going to order, expand the selection. Okay, so now that the data set is ordered, right, and we have 11 observations, so we just for record keeping, we have n equals 11. We have 11 observations. So what we're going to do is we're going to figure out the median, right, that's going to be equal to n plus 1, so that's 11 plus 1. Okay, so that's 12. And then we're going to divide that number by 2. 6. And so now we count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right, so this right here, this is our median. I'm going to make that a different color really quick. Let's go ahead and make it, let's fill in the box, fill it in with red. Right, so that's our median. So we're going to label that as median. Okay. Right, so now what we have to do is figure out Q1. So it's the exact same process, except instead of going here, we're going to start from here and we're going to just look at this portion of the data set. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 observations. So it's going to be, our n is going to be 5. So it's going to be 5 plus 1 divided by 2 is going to be 3. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3. So this is going to be our Q1 is going to be 4.5. I'm going to color that in green. All right, so again, to get Q1, we just applied the median idea to 1/2 of the data set. So let's do the same thing here. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just like before. So our Q is going to be the exact same. We're going to be going 3 values. So 1, 2, 3. So this is going to be our Q3. I'm going to highlight this in, no, I don't want to replace it. I want to highlight it in blue so that we can know what we're talking about. So again, we just applied the exact same concept to both pieces. So we now have Q1, we have Q2 or the median, and we have Q3. So what is interquartile range? Well, interquartile range, let's head back to our document here. So interquartile range, so we've done the quartile part. So let's talk about the range part. Let's talk about the range part. So we talked about the quartile part. Let's talk about the range part. Interquartile range is the distance between the first quartile and the third quartile. This distance, this is IQR, or interquartile range. Interquartile range, or IQR. Interquartile range. So what would IQR be calculation-wise? So IQR, or interquartile range, is going to be the value of Q3 minus the value of Q1. That's all interquartile range is it's the value that divides the data here minus the value that divides the data here. And that distance, or that difference, is interquartile range. So what does that look like in our Excel sheet? Well, we have our data here. So Q3 is 6.2. So let's go ahead and mark Q3 as 6.2 feet and Q1 as 4.5 feet. So we just said that interquartile range is the difference between the third quartile and the second quartile. So if we do that, we end up with 1.7 feet. So our answer here is 1.7 feet for the interquartile range for this data set. Hopefully that made sense. Again, just to recap, going back to our paint here, right? The idea of interquartile range is that we're finding values that divide the data set into quarters, hence quartiles. And the first division is the first quartile, and the third division is the third quartile. The second is the median, which we've already talked about. Interquartile range is just the difference between the third quartile and the first quartile. Hopefully this makes sense, and as always, if you have any questions, please reach out. Thank you.